Okay, everyone. Now for some baseball news. Russ?
All right. So, Mike, we've been here, and Eck, I'm not even going to talk to you directly about this. You can comment if you'd like, but you probably don't care.
While you're doing this.
That's fine.
Just don't snore. Yeah.
Now, Mike, we've heard about this rule where Major League Baseball is going to test out putting runners on base in extra innings to try and shorten things, and they did just that in the World Baseball Classic last night. Now, I didn't get to see it because I was actually doing a baseball show. I do a show called The Game, and people could listen to it on Blog Talk if they want. But I know Eck probably wonders, like, why would you do a baseball show? But we do. And I do it with a former
knitting and stuff like that. They do all kinds of shows. Yes, everything.
Yeah. So, but the point is, here's how it went. So they start off the extra innings with a man on first and second. They're automatically there. They didn't do anything. They're just placed there magically. Right. Then basically what happened was there was a a ground out, an intentional walk, and a fly out, and they win the game that way.
On a contrived sac fly.
On a contrived sac fly, and they move on in the tournament with a contrived. And this is basically baseball's version of the shootout, and it's horrible.
Well, it's you know what it is?
Worse. It's actually worse.
It's baseball's version of college football's overtime, where you start at the 25-yard line. It's an abomination. I mean, me as a traditionalist for sport, I have a problem with just saying 4 pitches. No 4 pitches for the intentional walk.
Right.
Now they're going to put runners on base that don't. I mean, I'm sorry. If you want games to be shorter, get players who are better offensively and get friggin' on base.
Yeah,
that's what I can tell you.
This is horrible. This should never happen in Major League Baseball. If it does, I will pick it. I will go out there and I will because I have a baseball book coming out. I'm in the last edits of it, and it goes back to the very beginning. And that's the one great thing about baseball is most of the game still is the same from the very beginning. This kills it. Like, this is just horrible.
We should also mention that because we had that sports science discussion previously on one of the previous shows, and the NBA commissioner came out yesterday or a couple days ago. Yesterday, Adam Silver, and came out and said to teams like Cleveland and Golden State who were sitting players. I mean, especially
some of the biggest players in the sport, mind you.
They were sitting LeBron. Right, they were sitting LeBron. They were sitting Steph Curry. But the thing that was embarrassing to the league was they have a game on Saturday night, Cleveland versus the LA Clippers, and Cleveland is sitting out LeBron and Kyrie Irving and Love. They're sitting all their best players. So that would be the equivalent of the Chicago Blackhawks going to face the Bruins and sitting out Kane and Taves. Right. And the commissioner called teams to the carpet for this, and basically the teams came back and said, "Go to hell. We can control our rosters. If we want to rest these guys, we're going to rest these guys."
It's going to be a big blow up in the offseason, though, because the networks will get involved. Because the networks are the ones that pay the big money for these matchups, and they're going to be like, listen, end of the season, we've got to have a product to show on television. We can't show like a Cleveland Cavaliers light. Like, just imagine if it turned out to be rivalry night, even if it's the last rivalry night on NBC, on major network NBC, which, the NHL fought for, and you're missing like 5 stars. Just imagine that, Eck. I mean, from both teams.
No, I know it's a big deal, and it's also a big deal with fans, because it's like people who pay tickets. I mean, but granted because we get to go to a lot of games, but some people get like 1 or 2 games a year, and then you go to those games, and those games with their players aren't showing up to play. That sucks.
But it's one thing. It's one thing for say Boston plays Washington the last game of the season. It's one thing for Washington in game 82 to play Grubauer, to sit Ovechkin, to rest them in advance of the playoffs. It's another thing in the middle of the season to sit 3 of your star players, and that's the problem. But I don't know what the NBA, and if that ever happens in the NHL, what Gary Bettman can do to these teams unless it's fines. I mean, I don't know.
If sports science ever gets into hockey, I will scream because it's ruining basketball for people. It is. I mean, it's a horrible thought. We don't even know who these witch doctors are in the back room somewhere with their graphs calling teams saying, you got to sit him tonight. Yeah, I know he scored 25, 35, and 25, but he needs a day off. I mean, who are these people?
This is the direction this will go. If the NBA commissioner says, like, these players cannot sit out unless there's a valid injury. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what will happen is LeBron James will start against the LA Clippers. He'll play 5 minutes and he'll sit.
Right.
That's what will happen.
Yeah, I'll just get a doctor to say that he tweaked something.
No, not even that.
They won't even do that. What Mike said is true, but I'm telling you, they will figure out the verbiage and collectively bargain this because the networks will not stand for it. That's what bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, the real end of the day is it's just we forget that what we're playing is a sport, and games are games, and they have to be played and to win all the time. And it's not. It's how you should do it. It's crazy.
And the commissioner's right. It hurts the integrity act, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. It kills the integrity, and it really does. It affects. And this is a sport, they can't afford it. I mean, to me, it's like, and I get it. I mean, baseball. Like, to get back to your thing on baseball, as much as I rip baseball, I'll watch a baseball game like the next person, but I won't. I don't understand. The obsession that you guys have, but I admire it. I do. It's just not in me.
Right.
I completely admire it, but at the same time, what baseball has going for it more than anything else is its tradition to me.
Right.
So to change anything like this in baseball is ludicrous, because the one thing you guys do have going is the fact that things are the same as they've been since the 20s.
Yeah.
Or whatever, and that's why baseball shouldn't be screwing around with the rules at all. Like, there's no point in it. I mean, it really kills the one thing that you got. It's not going to bring more fans in. It's not going to make me watch a game now, because
I think it'll have the exact opposite effect. I think
they got excoriated in articles today, and I think that will go a long way into killing.
Yeah, no, it's going to be dead. I mean, there's no way. You can try anything you want, but I think that you shouldn't try it in a tournament like that either, because people are, there are people in that tournament that care about the tournament. So the fact that this tournament that affected the tournament like that, it's not like you try it out in a preseason in a spring game.
It would be better in spring training. You're right.
Why would you try it out in a tournament like that? That's crazy. People are traveling, great distances to go and play.
That's a good point.
They're giving up, and a lot of those guys, like from other countries and like that, they're giving up. They gave up a lot to get there, to be there. It's just lame to me that they would even think about that.
Although I will say this, Ek, there's a lot of guys that are on the Netherlands that I don't really believe were born in the Netherlands. I'll come out and say it. It's a guarantee these guys were not born in the Kingdom of the Netherlands.
Well, no. They were born in territories of the Netherlands,
yes.
like Curacao. That's why Profar and.
But isn't that stretching it a little too much?
Yeah, but if somebody, Puerto Rico is technically a U.S. territory, but Puerto Rico has a separate team, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, so the U.S. is such a powerhouse that they can let their territories.
Yeah, the U.S. is like Canada for these other tournaments, like where Canada goes Canada East, Canada West, and like the Junior A Challenge. Right. I get that, but like when you're stretching the Netherlands out like this, it's a little iffy, because they have one of the best closers in the game, and is he really from the Netherlands? Come on.
Well, the men's soccer team, bring it up too. Men's U.S. soccer team. It doesn't, but there's a lot of stuff like this.
Well, they had a German coaching them for the last 10 years, so what the hell?
Hey, listen, just remember when we stole the ice dancing pair from Canada and made them Americans? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. No, I do.
Don't go down that ice dance.
The biggest news in ice dancing ever. So hey. It actually got covered in newspapers.
There was a big controversy in ice dancing in the last Olympics between the Canadians and the U.S. You don't want to go there, Russ.
Okay.
It starts fights and arguments. Anyway.
Let's
go. And I should actually, one more small thing. They are making progress with the women's team for the World Championship. So that's good. Now, Ek, here's the bad part. They've been doing it in Philadelphia. Like, if I knew where, I would actually cover it.
They're having the negotiations.
Yes.
Wow. Really. This could be like back in the lockout days. You camp out in front of
I know. I would be there, but I don't even know where it is.
It's at the place that makes the good hoagies.
It's probably at like the Rittenhouse or something like that, like some hotel downtown.
It's probably the Four Seasons. Who knows?
Four Seasons doesn't exist anymore in Philadelphia, but Rittenhouse, yeah.
That's
how I know that. I just do. I have a friend who left the Four Seasons to go work at the Rittenhouse.
Could be the DoubleTree. Could be.
There's lots of places.
It's right near Rocky Balboa's statue.
Oh, don't go there, man.
We gotta find it, Russ.
I know. It's just
we'd be the only reporters camping out overnight while this negotiation goes.
and these negotiations went until like 12:30 last night. They went that late.
Philadelphia. Wow, I wonder where they're talking.
I know. I can't find out. I've been tweeting about it. I have not been able to find out, but I saw that it was mentioned in an article.
Well, if they're making progress towards it, there's a good sign. That's a good sign.
Yes.
Because that's all they wanted, right?
Yeah, but I want to be there if they announce it. I'd like to cover it. It would be cool.
Let's start the show.
All right, here we go. Ding, ding, ding. ding.
No, it's okay. All that stuff was good. We're gonna keep it.
Nah, it's relative. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll say it was good. Okay. Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, March 21st, 2017.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen, and I can't believe I actually finished my taxes like 2 days ago. Like, that's a miracle for me. And I'm from Sportsology.
Screw you, Russ. I'm not done mine yet. And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we had some interesting things last night happen, and interesting games.
I got breaking news.
Okay.
The Flyers signed Mark Friedman to an ELC. Friedman, if you remember, is he was one of those guys that I actually scouted when I did that Ivan Provorov trip, and I didn't do it for him, but I just basically covered the USHL, and Friedman was in the USHL. He's a really good defenseman, and so the Flyers signed him, and they've sent him to Lehigh Valley. This guy's got potential. I mean, he really does, and
just what the Flyers need, another defense.
Well, but the thing is, I mean, you can't. He's skipping his senior NCAA season, which is cool. He was playing for Bowling Green. You can't have enough of them. I mean, you really can't, because here's the thing. You know what you can't control? When they're all going to get there.
Sure, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, when they will get there, it's true. I mean, it's timing wise. Totally agree with you. Totally agree. No, that's good. This is a good breaking sign. We have a lot more signings going on. Last night though, we had I think kind of the end of the LA Kings. I mean, in a way, it was a really tough one for the Kings last night. They I mean, it's amazing how good both Alberta teams are playing now. I mean, both of them are like kicking it now. Like this is 4 in a row, I think, for Edmonton, and Calgary's still going strong. And
they were a robot team. They were.
Yeah, they really have. They really do have a sense of no direction.
I said it yesterday, and I think as the days go by and as the problem continues to sort of fester with the Kings, I think you have to call into question the moves that Dean Lombardi made at the deadline. I mean, maybe the cost was prohibitive in the sense that they couldn't get enough offense to help them out, but they went out and traded for Ben Bishop. They had $6 million in cap space that they occupied with Ben Bishop because of the fact that they weren't 100% sure that Jonathan Quick was healthy. But if they weren't 100% sure, you had an $800,000 guy in Peter Budaj who had carried you through the entire season. So you could have very easily kept Budaj and used up the cap space that you had to get some offense, because the problem right now is this team can't score. And that's
I'm not sure it's the players. I think it might be the system that Sutter plays, which is finally hurting them. Because here's what I saw. I didn't watch the whole game, but I watched a good chunk. And Talbot had to make some good saves, but never really critical ones. Quick was making critical save after critical save after critical save, because Edmonton kind of knew that LA was not going to put any real offensive push. And really the only offensive push LA was getting was mainly from their defensemen. Like when Drew Doughty decided to try and do it himself. Like this is an alarming thing. I never thought I'd see the Kings play like this, but they are.
Yeah, no, I think it's a combination of it. I think it is the system, but I think that system is designed to play with a lot quicker defenders than they have. Like, to me, that system, we watched it so many times. When the Kings system was at its best, what they were better at than any other team, I think, in the last maybe even 20 years, is when they were at their best. They had the best breakouts of any team I've ever seen. They were the ability to get the puck from behind their own goal with their defender into the other team's zone were phenomenal. Like they never made a mistake. They had 2 or 3 quick short passes. They always had somebody on the boards waiting for the pass. It was completely set up, and you would watch it, and it was just like clockwork. Their breakouts were perfect, but those breakouts do require a great deal of athleticism to pull off. Like, that's something that they're not that easy to do. Otherwise, every team would do it. So they had younger defense, and I mean, they're still complaining. I heard somebody today on the radio. They're still complaining about Voynov. Like, they're still complaining about.
You gotta give it up. I mean,
I know. But they're still complaining about the fact that they haven't had this, their defense is not quick enough to make, and that's why, because their whole thing, the Kings' whole system is designed from behind their own net, and it has to go, and it goes the whole way.
Right.
And right now, they're not getting any of that. So they're
well, I mean, okay.
Well, they got it from Doughty a few times during the time I watched, but not enough.
They do, and Doughty can still do it, obviously, and Muzzin can do it too. But it's not just the defense; it's also the one wing who has to come back to be on the boards, right?
Yeah.
It requires a lot of athleticism throughout the lineup. It has
again, like if they're complaining about the fact that they don't have Voynov anymore because of, I mean, first of all, the blame there is on Voynov for doing what he did. But the second thing is, it's been 2 years. Go out and make a trade and get a defenseman. I mean, what the hell?
But it's not that easy. Like, here's an example.
It's easy, but I'm saying there is a mechanism to be able to go ahead and do it.
No, there is. But here's what I think they're getting at. Look, the Rangers have never replaced Brian Leach. I mean, they haven't. They haven't had anybody who has that same skill set or even something similar since Leach. So it does happen where sometimes when you lose a guy, whether it's trade, something bad happens.
The Flyers with Chris Pronger. I mean, the Flyers with Pronger is the same way, right? The Flyers have not Chris Pronger, and he was huge for them. So
Detroit and Nicholas Lidstrom, they've never replaced them, and they probably never will. But I mean, I get that, but I'm just saying there are solutions to problems. Maybe you're not going to be able to get a player who's as good as Voynov, but there are options out there. But honestly, if you
more than the defense, though, I think, like I said, they're blaming Voynov. I really think it has to do with the athleticism of the wingers. I really think that it's just not there. And if Gaborik and those guys are not scoring goals, I mean, this is Kopitar got his 10th goal last year of the season. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't notice Gaborik very much. Carter was pretty active. I don't know. Was Dustin Brown even playing the time I watched? I didn't have the sound on. I mean, Carter's
been amazing, but Gaborik has I think 8 goals or 9 goals.
It's crazy bad. But they looked like a robotic team. They looked like a team that we must get the puck out of our zone. We must get the puck out of our zone.
Trying to do the same thing they used to do, and it's been drilled through them, and they did it so well, and they were so good at it because it was so instinctual and habitual. That's what made them so hard to play against. But you've got, I think it goes really quickly if you don't have the skill to do it. You can't pull it off.
Right, and I think part of the problem with the inability of the Kings to sort of metamorphosize to a different type of team is the fact that Lombardi has locked up players on deals that are just not beneficial to that team. The Dustin Brown contract, I don't care how much of a leader he is in the locker room. You're paying him almost $6 million. He's got 11 goals this year. He's not the impact player that he was, say, 5 years ago. Gaborik, they signed to the long-term deal. He's under a contract, I think, for another 4 years at almost $5 million, and he's got 9 goals. He's 35 years old. He's chronically injured. It was a terrible signing. It was good when they won the cup, but there has to be some forethought there by Lombardi and to not get these guys locked up on these ridiculous deals. And now they really have no flexibility. Toffoli's an RFA. Now he's not having a big year, but still, Toffoli's an RFA. Pearson's an RFA. Where are they going to get the money to sign these guys?
Here's the thing. We always knew that Gaborik's career would be like musical chairs. Yeah. Like when he was with the Rangers, you were sort of like, okay, he's doing great, but when are the wheels going to fall off? And they got rid of him too soon because of his clash with Tortorella, and it didn't work in his system. But we always knew this was coming with Gaborik. The whole world knew this was coming with Gaborik. I get what Mike said is right, that they won, but you don't always have to pay that price for winning. You could let guys walk, and they probably should have let him walk because he's literally now he is an albatross of a contract, and he still might come back and have another good year. This is Gaborik. He surprises us all the time, but this is a guy who could have been a Hall of Famer, like legitimately had Hall of Fame talent.
Yes.
And, whether it's the injuries, desire, all of it that have sort of derailed him at times, he's not going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he had the huge big first game in the NHL, which everyone remembers, and it was just crazy and had so much speed, but was so hurt so much of his career. For what it's worth. I mean, he was a guy really literally 2 teams got rid of because they couldn't take him anymore. That really, when you think about it, Minnesota traded him because it was just crazy. Then, Columbus traded him because they would have taken anything they could have gotten for him. And he was a good complimentary player on their team. I never understood the big contract with LA. I never understood why they would do that. Because even in LA, he's a guy, he reminded me of a Claude Lemieux. Like, keep him on a short-term contract. Keep him
I think it was the fact that they got him for less than $5 million, which was a bargain in terms of AAV, but the term is what kills on this deal. So I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, you reported like last month about Lombardi being kicked upstairs. I personally think this might be the end for Daryl Sutter. But, if John Stevens takes over there, what is he taking over? He's taking over a team that he's going to have to dramatically change the focus of that team from being a shutdown defensive team to being probably a little more wide open offensively. And I don't know if they've got the horses to be able to play that type of game.
Stevens, the one thing Stevens could do, look, he's got a good connection with Carter, so he'll make Carter the leader. That's for sure. He won't make him a captain. Like, you can never make Jeff Carter a captain, but he'll use him as the leader. And what he'll do is he'll give everybody the correct role. That's the one thing John Stevens does pretty well, is everybody knows what they're supposed to do under John Stevens singularly, not like as a group like with Sutter. Like, basically, no matter who you are, you've got to do what Daryl Sutter said. Stevens is different than that. Stevens will use your talents, but also give you a defined role, which I know players like that. Now, it didn't work out with the Flyers because it was new and early in his career, and we saw that he played too many favorites, and that hurt him. I think now he would get past that, and he probably has a good feel for some of the players down below that would definitely have to come up because they're going to need a little bit of a youth injection here.
Yeah. Let me just ask one question here. They've locked up Kopitar. He's making $10 million. They've locked up Quick. Drew Doughty's a free agent in 2 years. What the hell does he get? I think he gets $8.5 million. And again,
I just gave him 8.5 in my fantasy league, which we have a salary cap, and I had no qualms signing Drew Doughty. We signed him long term. I gave him a better contract than Ryan McDonough, so that just tells you where I think he's at.
If they had the cap space, I don't think they would have any qualms either, Russ. But I don't see how, unless they're going to buy out guys with 3 years left in their contracts, I don't know how they fit them in.
They'll figure a way.
They'll have to, but I'm just saying that's a big bridge that they're going to have to cross, and it's pretty, like they can talk about an extension.
How many more years for Doughty's contract?
2 more years.
Okay, here's the thing.
2019.
I'll make a bold prediction here. In 2019, I don't know if Jonathan Quick's on that team.
Okay.
Yeah, that's possible.
I mean, I think he's nearing the end. I mean, he shows his flashes, but he is getting a little bit more dinged up, and I kind of wonder if they're really going to give him a big contract when the one thing they've been able to do is find goaltending. Think about all the goaltenders that they've been able to produce.
Yeah, I mean, Quick is under contract for another 6 years at 5.
6 years? Wow.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like you've got Kopitar for another 7.
I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah. There's no, unless he retires, and why would he?
Yeah, they're not going to be able to trade him.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to eventually have a problem. Like, Quick's probably got 3 more good years, really top years. But after that, I think you're looking at a guy that, like, I don't want to say like Hasek near the end, but something in between like Roberto Luongo, what he's going to look like near the end, and Hasek.
Yeah. This isn't Roberto Luongo near the end right now. I think this is Roberto Luongo near the end.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And if they're having to play James Reimer down the stretch, he's nearing the end.
All right. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
A couple more games. Also, Nashville won a big game, which was Arizona, but they had to win that game. They're in this race here, the race big time. And then, of course, the Maple Leafs Bruins game, which took place, and the Leafs sweep the Boston Bruins.
Before we talk about the Leafs, I want to ask one question.
Yeah.
Who is the easiest team to play right now? Is it Arizona or is it Colorado? To me, it strikes me as Arizona is the easiest team to play right now if you want to win.
Detroit might be the easiest team.
Yeah, Detroit's in there too. You're right.
Yeah, Detroit's not playing well at all. That's a good question, though. I mean, Colorado's picked it up a little bit, but
Colorado's picked it up a little bit. Arizona is just, like I said, they're just a rudderless ship. I hate to say that about a franchise, but they're a rudderless ship.
Yeah,
and
they're so young, and they're just, I agree with you.
Detroit's just weakened. Like, Detroit is like, that boxer that's staggering around for like the last 4 rounds, not sure what to do. That's
It's a combination with Arizona. It's not only the fact that they traded guys like Hansel at the deadline. Now Doan is on his, I think, on his last. He's probably, this is it for him.
Yeah.
But he's out right now. He's out injured, so there is no veteran leadership other than Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Mike Smith. There is no veteran leadership left on that team. So I think they're. But Detroit is pretty easy to play against right now.
Yeah, they are. You're right.
Yeah, and they're not really getting much push at all. Although, the last couple games of the year, Detroit does have their, I think they could be difficult because, they are ending up, the Joe Louis Arena is ending up. But there's going to be some excitement involved in that. I think in the playoffs.
Unless the ghost of Gordie Howe is playing for them, they're in trouble.
Yeah. All right, so then the Maple Leafs Bruins, we'll get to this. So I wrote about this today. Mike, I know you're going to take me to task for this, but I was excited about the fact that the Leafs won last night. For them, this is first time they've swept a series from Bruins since I think Bobby Orr was around.
How dare you be excited? What is wrong with you, Ek?
I know. So, but my point of my article today was the irony of this pain. The whole we've talked about. This is my last time I'm going to bring it up. The whole concept of expect more pain, like that. I'll never forget that press conference as long as I live.
Right.
See, that's the thing. You totally misread the entire situation. Honestly, the Maple Leafs organization got the pain message from the fan base. The fan base was telling them back to 2007 when Steven Stamkos was the first overall pick, we want you to tank. And they wouldn't listen. They said, no. The Toronto fan base will never accept a team tanking. We have to try to make the playoffs, even though it's completely stupid with a team that had so many holes to throw money down the toilet to sign guys like Jason Blake and trade for Vesa Toskala and patch bullet holes with Band-Aids. That's what they did for years and years and years.
They did, but they went through 10 years. So listen, here's the other thing about the internet that sucks, because I think the internet makes all Leaf fans sound like they want to tank, right? Like that's what you hear. But there are a lot of Leaf fans that didn't want to tank.
Of course.
There are a lot of fans. You would watch the games on TV. People showing up in their uniforms to cheer on their team when they were, even the games they would want to technically lose, cheering when they were scoring goals. It's like but people don't get on the internet and start screaming when they're like that. They get on the internet and they start screaming when they're negative. But if they're negative about something or they can get upset about something, that's when they'll go crazy. So Tank Nation is bigger, or the concept of Tank Nation is not as big as it really is.
Okay. There's always going to be a segment of the Leafs fan base that will be content with them winning most of the games on Saturday night when they're sitting on their Barca lounger drinking a 6-pack of Molson Canadian. But the problem is that them winning occasionally on Saturday night is never going to get them to the end goal of winning a Stanley Cup before most of their fan base is dead.
Okay, but here's the thing. While that's a very nice thought that you just put out there into the universe about people possibly dying without seeing the Leafs win, that's a very uplifting message. Tank Nation's over. We should never talk about it again.
No, it is over. And that my point of my article was this.
It's over. It's dead.
The point of my article was, since Babcock sat there 2 years ago and you went to that press conference, Mike, where they had the big sign welcoming you. It said, "Welcome, Mike," behind. And yes. Mike sent me a picture. He's like, "Oh, it was so nice to send me this picture." To make a sign for me and everything to show up at the press conference. Welcome, Mike. So ever since that day, when Babcock sat there, the most competitive coach I've ever been around, and told the fan base, the most competitive fan base I've ever been around, that things were going to get more and more painful. And I understood it. I understood the concept, but just the way
you and I think said it's going to last a couple of years maximum.
Right, and he said it was right. He was, but my point of that is, okay, what is real pain as a sports fan? Because I thought about this. Real pain of a sports fan is what's happening now. The Maple Leafs are trying to make the playoffs, okay?
No, honestly.
This is real. This is real.
They're playing with house money right
with
now.
losing.
Matt, they're playing with house money. If they don't make the – yes.
No.
I'm telling you right now, the mentality of the city of
get it. No, I know. This team is not – the window is not closing on the Maple Leafs. I know that, okay? I know that you can look at the house money, that's fine. But the reality is, if you get a date with a really hot girl and you go out with that girl, even though you're going to go out with that girl again, you hope that date goes somewhere. Okay, and that's what's happening. The Maple Leafs are there right now. Okay, they can sit back and say, okay, it's fine if it doesn't go anywhere, but you can't help but get your hopes up. Okay, and what's happening now is Leaf fans can't help but get their hopes up, and that's okay. It's a wonderful thing. It's what everybody else does. It's what the entire NHL does.
Here's what I'll use. Wait, hang on, Mike. Here's what I'll use as an example because I heard it on Philly Sports Radio yesterday, and I think there was some merit to what Eck is saying. Married to this, when Villanova lost, right, and they lost their chance at a national championship, there were fans that were saying, a small minority, hey, it was great that we were there. Maybe we'll be there next year, even though the odds are stacked against them. They're not going to be there next year. But yet what Eck is saying is there are more fans that are really PO'd about it because they got that close. And this right now the playoffs are ridiculously close for the Leafs.
Repeating as national champions because they won it last year.
Right, but it doesn't matter. It's just
the Leafs haven't won a Stanley Cup.
Both of you are right. Mike's had a distinction. I can understand that distinction there. But Russ is right in what he's saying too. I mean, believe me, everybody with a NCAA pool in this area is screwed right now because everybody picked Villanova except for me because Wisconsin's a much better hockey team. So I picked Wisconsin to beat Villanova in that, So there you go.
But like if the Leafs fall 3 points short, fans are not going to say, oh, this was great because we were playing with house money. No, they're going to be mad they didn't make the playoffs. That is human nature, Mike.
It's okay. What I'm trying to say is it's okay. There is this – they are like the worst fan base to date in the world because they sit there – I'm trying to sit there. I'm saying, it's okay to get into this. It's okay.
No, it's okay to get into it, but I'm telling you right now that the mentality of the Toronto fan base right now is, yes, do they want to make the playoffs? Of course they do. But if they don't, they are playing with house money. So they're not going to be pissed off and say, okay, we got to go do this, and this because we can't miss the playoffs another year. They've missed the playoffs, 11 of the last 12 years?
Right. No, and I get that. You're right. And I get that.
One more.
They're not going to be devastated. Okay. But the fact is, this is that emotion before of wanting to lose all the time was fake. Okay. To me, it was a fake emotion designed to long-term win some kind of game. And they didn't get McDavid. They did get Marner, who was amazing. They did get Matthews. They could have gotten none of those guys. Got one. They got Matthews. They got Marner. So it ended up working out for them. That's good. It hasn't worked out so well for other teams.
It still could take them 5 or 6 years to win a Stanley Cup, if not more.
Which is fine. But the fact is, when the second you get to this point, I just feel as if that Leaf fans are like they're just this girl you're dating that's afraid to get involved with anything. Like they're afraid to get interest. They're so boring. I mean, it's so boring to sit there and say.
There's 50 years of scar tissue here.
Yeah, but you know what? The scar tissue is
but it doesn't matter. Some of the people who are fans of this Leafs team, okay, have never even seen them win a playoff game, okay? Or when they did, they were 8 years old, Like, I mean, I talked to somebody yesterday who's 20, 21. He's like, I can't remember the Leafs winning a playoff game. Okay, I mean, it's just like the last series they won was in 2005.
It was when you were 8 years old, so it's not that excuse me. I can.
I know, but
we're not talking about you, Mike. Not everybody has the recall of an elephant.
I mean, there are. So when do you start remembering things? When you're 5. So there are kids in maybe 5 or 6. Like the Flyers won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
The Flyers won the Stanley Cup. The second, I don't remember the first Stanley Cup. Okay, that happened when I was 5. The second Stanley Cup happened when I was 6, and I went to the parade. And I vaguely remember probably more about the parade than I do the actual winning of the Stanley Cup. So I was 6. So say 6 years old, the last time they won a playoff series, which is not like a remarkable moment. The last time it's not winning, it's not going to a Stanley Cup parade. It's a winning a playoff series. Before Roenick scores that double overtime game in the next series, right? So those people some of them are 16 years old now, 17 years old. They're in high school and they've never seen their team, and they've lived in a climate that I mean,
here's what I believe. I think the Leaf fans are now in the same boat as every other fan who wants their team to make the playoffs and is close, and they're not sure because nothing is guaranteed. You don't know who's going to get hurt in the future. Right. You don't know what will happen next year or the year after. Just because you had this plan, it didn't mean it was going to work, and it still doesn't mean it's going to work. So you have to live in the now. You do.
No,
you have to be willing to open yourself up to accept the fact that
you have to live in the now, but you also have to live in the future. And what I'm saying from what I observe from the Leaf fan base is Yes, they want to make the playoffs, but if they don't, there is a level of acceptance there that this team has showed remarkable progress in just 12 months. There's a lot of talent, a lot of things there to be hopeful about, and it's not do or die for them, guys. I don't care what you say. It's not do or die.
It's not do or die, but it's some emotional involvement is all I'm looking for. I'm just looking for
I was at the game.
I'm not looking to say you're going to throw yourself off a bridge if they don't make the playoffs, because I know that there's 10 years ahead with this team that's going to be chances to make the playoffs. But every year, like Russ said, every year actually matters, because every year you could get in there. You could get lightning in a bottle. They could end up beating the Capitals in the first round for some bizarre reason. Who knows? It's just the Capitals have imploded before. They could implode again, and then who knows? The point is, it's okay. What bothers me is people who are following this team and have done so from such. I think this team was so mismanaged for so many years that everybody thinks they're managing this team. Every fan, they think, okay, I'm managing this team because they were so mismanaged for so many years. So every team, and they're treating it like a general manager would treat it, and they're like, okay, long term, and they're smart. They're a very smart fan base, so they go this. But something about that feels wrong to me. Something about that feels evil to me. That I don't want to, as a fan, I don't want to sit there and wait for Provorov to play. Okay, last year, but I did. But as a fan, I would admit that I wanted Provorov in now. And it's okay that it's not there, because I know it's better for the team as a.
There's conflicting emotions. That's real.
I get what you're saying, but you cannot separate the fact that and I'm not slagging any other fan base, but you're talking about one of the more intelligent hockey fan bases in the league, in the world, and they realize after years and years of complete incompetence and tone deafness from ownership and management that the group right now is running things well. They're running things methodically, and if they're not going to shoot a bolt to all of a sudden, that's why a lot of people disagreed with the Brian Boyle deal, because they gave up a second round pick for a guy.
I didn't see that much disagreement.
That's what I'm talking about, Mike. That's the people that I'm talking about. That is that you could feel that way. That you would want some random second rounder who might not play for your team for another 3 years and perhaps never, over a guy who can come in now and actually help you maybe get in the playoffs, and perhaps even win a playoff game.
Right, I got a legit question to ask Mike. You're going to have one or two choices to make. You either get to have the 10th overall pick in this year's draft, or you get to have the Leafs make the playoffs and possibly get swept in 4 games. Which one are you choosing?
The 10th overall pick.
Why? Why would you do that? What's wrong with you?
I don't. I'm trying to say. And people who are following you before, people who are like, yeah, Mike's making sense, they just jumped off the ship
because I don't see the benefit in getting destroyed by the Capitals in 4 straight games.
Your youngsters get playoff experience.
There's such a benefit in getting destroyed. Getting destroyed is a great thing for them to do, because what's going to happen? Because this is 1 year in Austin Matthews' career. For whatever it's worth, this is one of the years. He's going to play 20 years. This is
I know. And believe me, I'm probably in the minority. I
don't think you are. That's why I bring this point up. I don't think you are.
No, I don't think he's in the minority either.
No, I'm not busting on you. That's why I brought up the point I brought up, because I don't think you are. I think there are people who are seeing it, what we're saying. But I think that there are more people, and probably some of the biggest Leaf fans who are the smartest Leaf fans who are with you, because they've been through this and they've gone through this. And the fact is, you have to, as a fan, separate yourself from that. You have to be able to say, okay, it's better to make the playoffs. There is nothing like waking up on a Tuesday morning and saying, my team is playing a playoff game tonight. That emotion of that feel. And I know Leaf fans don't really know that feeling, except for the one series that they lost in agonizing fashion a couple years ago.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because I had a discussion after the game with some reporters about Game 7 in 2013, and about because obviously the Leafs swept the series. The big deal. They led every game 4-1. That magical score, they were losing, or they were winning in Game 7 in 2013. Yeah. And I asked the question, when will the dragon be slain of that? Of that Game 7 in 2013, and my response was maybe never.
Yeah, say never.
But possibly, hey, I'm still.
And that's honest, Mike. I'm proud of that. That is a never moment for me too. If I'm a fan of that never, you can't. That doesn't go away.
Right, a lot of Leaf fans are still you still have an ulcer about Wayne Gretzky high-sticking Doug Gilmour in '93.
All right,
I'm not one of those people, but when you do, let me know, Mike.
I'm going to give you a good example. The only World Series games I've ever been to, I knew my team wasn't going to win, but I still went anyhow. I went to 2 in 2000. I knew the Mets were not going to beat the Yankees, but I went anyhow. I went against Kansas City because I said, you know what? What if? I know the Mets aren't going to win this World Series, but what if they do? I want to be there. And that's how most fans should be. If the Leafs make the playoffs, you go to the playoffs and you watch your team in it because there's always the what if factor. We're not always right. Prognosticators are not always right.
Russ, most of the time. And here's the thing, Mike, I'll let you go after this, but this is the thing, okay? The most fun I've had as a Flyers fan was the year they made the playoffs against the Rangers on the final game of the season. And that playoffs, expecting them not even to make the playoffs, okay? Expecting that they were going to.
That wasn't much fun for me, but I get it.
I know, but then they went to the second Stanley Cup Finals.
Right. Nobody knew that was coming. Nobody.
I didn't expect them to win any of those series. I picked against them in every one of those series to get there. And yet they did it. They beat a Montreal team that beat Pittsburgh and Washington. That was crazy. But it was so much fun, and I loved it. And I was devastated when, and I'm just admitting this, because reporters aren't allowed to be emotional. I was emotionally tied into that game, even though I'm covering it. I was devastated when Patrick Kane scored that goal in overtime. And when I have to walk on the friggin' ice at the Wells Fargo Center and watch the Chicago Blackhawks carry the Stanley Cup around while I interview them, that was agonizing. And that, from a fan's perspective, I mean, I did it professionally and all that stuff, but and I didn't even think they were going to make the playoffs, but I still went through the ride, and that's why we're involved in sports. You go through the emotional ride.
Once the Maple Leafs, if they clinch a playoff spot, you have both sides of this debate being 100% for the Leafs, having as much possible success. But right now, the whole point of the Brian Boyle discussion was this team is probably not going to win the Stanley Cup this year, even if they make the playoffs. And trading a draft pick for a guy who's probably going to be a rental and walk away at the end of the year does not help the end game. I mean, maybe he helps in terms.
But Mike, you have so many draft picks. This is crazy.
Right, this is just another player who could blow out his knee.
You're like hoarding draft picks now. And again,
you don't have that.
How do you know Boyle's not re-signing next year? You know that already?
If he does, that's great. I'm just saying.
Okay, well then you have to wait until he does or he doesn't.
But he's giving him a chance. And the fact is, it's like, I mean, you can sit back and say, oh, it's great for teams to be patient. It's great for teams to be patient. It sucks for fans for teams to be patient. It just does. And it piles up and piles up. And it's gone on for such a long time in Toronto that they've forgotten what it feels like to actually enjoy themselves. And
that's the thing. It's been so long since this team was consequential, meaning 2002, 1999, 2003, 2004, that waiting another year for this team to be really good is not a factor. They're patient. Finally, they're patient. They see what the future is with this team.
But they did that already.
You can still make the playoffs and be patient, Mike.
But they did that already, and it's done. Like, that part is done. They'll still have to be crazy. They don't have to go out and trade for Joe Thornton or whatever. They did the patient thing. They created it. They built a good. As much as I hated the concept of wanting to lose, whatever, they did it. It worked for them. They're there. It's there. But now it's over. It's done. It's finished. It's done. Don't take a 10th pick overall over a playoff round. That's my personal view. I'm just saying. Believe me, I think I'm in the minority there.
I think we need to turn the conversation out to the Bruins because I saw.
I got to finish one thing. Sorry, and then we definitely can't. Sorry, Russ. So the first night of the playoffs are happening. You've got all these games on. There's nothing like the first round of the NHL playoffs. That's my favorite. It's incredible. You got all these games going all around the clock. I got all the TV set up and watching on my phone. Yeah. You'd rather sit there and say, "Wow, I can't wait for that 10th pick." I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, I don't see how anybody could feel that way. Like, there's nothing.
Wrong with it. I'm telling. I mean, okay, this is not. I mean, I don't think that this team. And believe me, if Mike Babcock heard me say this, he would vehemently disagree. I don't think this team is going to win a Stanley Cup. I don't think it'll be a victory for them to get into the playoffs. And that is something to go fight for and go for. But I don't personally see a benefit in getting destroyed in 4 games by Washington, and that was the either or. Either I get the 10th pick and I possibly have a player who 2 or 3 years down the road is going to be part of a Stanley Cup victory, or we get hammered by Washington in 4 games.
If Austin Matthews is going to get more out of get hammering by the Capitals or more out of making friends with that 10th overall pick? What is going to matter more to him? Like it's going to matter more to him that he goes.
It could matter.
See what it takes to play. These Leafs have no idea. The NHL playoffs are a different level completely. It's not the same game. It's a different game. So these players on that team, as good as they've been this year, they have no clue as to what's happening.
It's true. You're right.
It could matter more to him if that 10th overall pick was a left winger who puts in 40 goals.
Right. We got to stop this part of conversation. Because I can't even go down that path. Let's switch this to
Please let us know. Email me or email Mike.
Don't email him.
No, let us know who's right and wrong in this situation. Like, where are you coming from, Leaf fans? Like, email me at Eklund@HockeyBuzz.com. Send me an email. I'm with Mike. I'm with you. I'm with Russ. Whatever. Just say what's going on. Because I want to know. I really want to know because I wrote that story today, and I really felt like it was my obligation to tell Leaf fans it was okay to have fun. And sitting there like that is ridiculous that I should feel that way. So I'm just that's all I want to say. Russ, continue, Boston.
No, so with the Bruins, all this talk about the Dominic Moore interference being a bad call. Like, I get where people are coming from in the sense that a couple minutes left in the game. It was an infraction, but it was one of those slight infractions that fans and media are used to the refs sort of swallowing the whistle for, and they didn't, right?
Right.
But it just seemed like, and I know there was only a couple minutes left in the game, but it just seemed like the Bruins as a team and an organization got so mad at that it affected their game.
Well, they got mad at and first of all, I mean, there were 4 penalties called in the game, 3 on Boston.
Right.
One was a coincidental minor between Sashnikov.
But Marchand did draw one on Shostakov, on Zaitsev rather. That was brilliant, and that was a total dive.
No doubt. But the thing is, Russ, is that it was not somebody getting his tooth knocked out. It was not a cut. It was not. But it was not over the glass. It was not a clear cut. It was a judgmental call. And the thing was that when the whistle was blown, the Leafs didn't know whether they got the penalty or not. It was only after he said, "Come this way." It was 2 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in the third period of a 1-1 game.
Sure, but here's the point. It didn't make a 5-on-3 situation. It wasn't a penalty shot.
Right. If
you kill off, and then basically, I don't even care if Cassidy would have called a timeout just to tell these guys, just kill this off. This is wrong. We're going to overcome this. We're going to beat this. But instead, they still complained about it after the game.
Let me say what came to my head immediately.
Okay.
First of all, the fact that you've got a young coach there, okay, and having an older coach would have been able to settle that team down a little bit better. This is the moment when coaching matters, right?
He's not a young coach. He's an inexperienced coach.
He doesn't have the respect, of Claude Julien. I mean, there's a different. Right. Also, the fact that one of your leaders on the Bruins, for better or worse, is an incredibly emotionally up and down player, right? So Marchand is, and he's having an unbelievable year, and he is what he is, right? And sometimes having you want a stabilizing guy in a situation like this. Like, I've seen teams that they look around the bench and no one's able to step it. This is what Pronger was phenomenal at. Like, this is when we go back to Pronger. Pronger was the best captain I've ever seen in Philadelphia, at least since I've been covering the team. Okay, he was by far. I mean, Forsberg was good, but he wasn't Pronger. Pronger was incredible at this because he would make a stupid comment, a dumb joke, and bring it all into perspective, and everybody would get over it right away. He would be like, "Well, I was screwed us." He would just say something, and that's what it takes. It doesn't take this massive speech. It just takes players looking to a senior player, and a senior player saying something that just gives everybody the ability to get over it right away.
I'm not being as hard on the Bruins as Russ is, and Cassidy, he has to handle things a certain way, and maybe he mishandled that because, like I said, he doesn't have a lot of NHL experience. But with the Bruins, it's a 1-1 game. I think they, at best it was 50-50. I thought they had a little bit of the advantage. I know they had the advantage in shots on goal, and they call a penalty with 2 minutes and some odd seconds left in the third period. The Leafs get the get the power play goal. And for all intents and purposes, that game was over with. He scores with 1 minute and 47 seconds left. Only by the grace of God do they get the time. They get the tying goal. So that penalty decided the game, and I think that is probably a reason to justifiably be upset if you were a part of the Bruins. Now, I would argue
if the Bruins would have scored a shorthanded goal, then nobody would be talking about the penalty. It's just a weak excuse. It really is.
Yeah, I do hate when referees call those calls.
Yeah, me too.
But
referees. But it wasn't a phantom call. That was not a phantom call.
Referees do tell you, they do tell you that they don't think about then they're lying. They do think about what's going on in the game. Obviously, we've all seen enough makeup calls and understand that they do have a concept of fairness, whatever that is in their head. But yeah, it does frustrating, and especially in a game like that has such a good feel to it, a playoff feel to it, and then that happens.
Right, that penalty, Russ, was the hockey version of a ticky-tack foul in the NBA.
Right.
Hand slap foul, and you do not like games.
But here's the thing. But there's a difference with that. In the NBA, you go to the foul line and you go to the charity stripe, and you have a chance to win it that way. The Leafs didn't get a guaranteed goal out of this.
No. And Tuukka Rask made a phenomenal save on Bozak before Bozak scored the winning goal. But I'm just saying, when this league, when you're talking about playoff-style hockey and you're talking about that goals are at a premium and it's 1-1 in the third period with 2 minutes left to go, you don't want the referee deciding that game. I would say the same thing if it was the opposite. If the Bruins had the penalty, or the Bruins had the power play and the Leafs had the penalty, I would think that was just as stupid as the opposite way. So
there's some fragility in the Bruins that I don't like.
Yes,
and I think we saw it, and we also saw stats. Ty and other people were posting how they lose games in the third period, yada yada yada.
And 2 years in a row, they've lost their playoff spots in the last week of the season, falling apart, or because of injuries or things like that.
Just beat the Flyers in the last 30 seconds of a game a couple weeks ago. So I mean, it's everything. There is a little bit of what comes around goes around type situation.
Yes,
right. Now
it all kind of evens out at the end of the day, and it's really.
But this team does not have a guaranteed playoff spot.
No, not at all. Yeah.
And now, okay, Toronto is 1 game behind Boston with a game in hand. So now third place is in the mix. And if they get into third place, Russ, then we're talking about them playing against Ottawa or Montreal in the probably Ottawa in the first round. Yeah. That is a playoff series that could be beneficial to the Leafs because they could win that series. They could go 6 or 7 in that series. They could have some experience that would be positive.
The conference finals if they get to third place, because they could beat Montreal too. I mean, they could say they play Montreal and say they.
No. If you talk,
I'm sorry, that's too much.
He'll hyperventilate.
Let's not put the cart before the horse here, Ack. Let's get in the playoffs first. Don't talk about if we could do this and do that.
If it was any other team, we would say that because it's true. I mean, the reality is
you're not allowed to say that with the Leafs, Ack. You know better.
All right, I do know better. You're right. So tonight. All right, we have 11 games on tap tonight, so another huge night in hockey. And it's amazing for the 11 games, not as many really impactful games as you want, for 11 games. But the game of the night to me is Ottawa-Boston, and that is because Boston has the Leafs following them. Boston's also not that far behind Ottawa themselves, so So Boston's looking both directions here, right? So Boston could catch Ottawa. Ottawa could end up, still missing the playoffs. I mean, as good as it's crazy. I mean, everything's still so wide open in the Atlantic. So that's the big game to me, Ottawa and Boston. This is
just a little bit of breaking news here. Another signing, but this time with the Leafs. The Leafs have finally signed Jeremy Bracco to an entry-level contract. Not shocking.
They waited a little while. They wanted to just see his attitude and it's his feistiness. Look, he's a feisty kid who sometimes is outspoken. They just wanted him to calm down a little bit with that. He did. He's a tremendous player.
I like him.
And I have a feeling that in a year or maybe 2, he's going to end up on the wing with Austin Matthews.
I know he's gonna.
That seems like inevitable, doesn't it? I mean, it does make sense. After that, so Pittsburgh and Buffalo tonight. That shouldn't be. Buffalo with the win last night has brought themselves still in the playoff hunt. As crazy as it sounds. I mean, it's not likely. It's not likely, but they're not that far out. I mean, they also have a game in hand on some of those teams ahead of them, so they are
as likely as the Bills winning a Super Bowl. Come on.
Oh, I know it's not likely. The Rangers have the Devils, which is always tough. Now the Rangers, I still don't know what the Rangers want to happen here. Like the Rangers, if you're a Rangers fan, where do you want them to finish? 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th?
I don't know. I think the Devils are going to be happy about this game because the building will be filled with Ranger fans, and so they might get a nice attendance out of it. I think the big deal about this is we're hearing that Lundqvist is practicing and he wants to play on the West Coast swing. He'll be ready. That's the biggest thing. So right now they'll probably put Ronta in net, and it'll be like whatever. This is just another in the string. They're not going to say that, but it is.
Calgary, Washington after that one. This is a big game for Calgary, even though Calgary has won a bunch of games here, and they're in pretty good shape. They do have a tough schedule coming up, and this is the beginning of that.
I think now with Calgary, it's not we need this game to make the playoffs. It's more like we need this game to, finish in second place in the Pacific and get home ice advantage over Anaheim rather than worrying about the playoffs, because I think LA's collapse has put, the playoffs in perspective.
Yeah, it seems like the playoff teams might be set in the West. You're right. But I think that it does. But playoff seeding matters a lot. And that's my blog tomorrow is who wants to play who and in the playoffs and for the Western Conference. So we'll have more about that. Plus, I will be doing the Rangers and Sabres draft things as well. Expansion. Wow. Okay, so Detroit and Montreal after that. Like you said, who's the easiest team to play in the league? Maybe Detroit, so Montreal. Yeah, Montreal win tonight. Ottawa lost tonight, and it really gets hard for Ottawa. So this is Ottawa's in a tough spot tonight. Ottawa's got to win that game, and so does Boston. So that's why I put that as the game of the night. Carolina and Florida. Carolina is still in the playoffs. They actually, as well. I mean, we're not talking about likeliness, but they actually have battled their way in too.
It's 8 points. Yeah, I mean, again,
but they have a game in hand on some teams, and
there were two really interesting games. When we get to them, I'll talk about them.
Yes, and what's happening now is you really have 4 teams, I think, battling for 2 playoff spots in the East. That being the Islanders, Bruins, Leafs, and Lightning battling for 2 playoff spots. And the Islanders can only, of course, get one of those. The other 3 teams have a chance for get 2 of them, one apiece, obviously. But yeah, after that, so that's why I think this. But there are these outside teams, Philly and Carolina and Buffalo, who actually still have shots really outside, but they've got to win tonight. Well, Arizona, Tampa.
Yeah, this is the big game in the East, even though it's Arizona. I mean, Tampa is 3 points behind the Leafs, same amount of games played. The Leafs play back-to-back for Wednesday in Columbus, then Thursday at New Jersey. So Tampa has to win this game to move within 2 points of Toronto. They'd still have a game, and obviously they're hoping that the Leafs go to Columbus and lose tomorrow. But if they don't win over Arizona, even if they get a point, then I start to have doubts whether Tampa has what it takes to catch them.
I'm with you. Carolina at Florida, another huge game for Florida. Florida still has a shot too. We didn't bring them up in that conversation. They are still in there too.
I will stick the fork in the Panthers. They're done.
But if Carolina wins tonight, so one of these 2 teams is going to win tonight. So one of these 2 teams is going to stay in the playoff hunt. So these are 2 teams that are both in there. So one is in Philly at Winnipeg. The Flyers play really
well. All right, so here's the thing about this game.
Go ahead.
I look it up, and the Flyers have like a dominant record against Winnipeg, right?
Yeah.
And yet it feels like a trap game. Like they go there, it's a long trip. They just came off a win. They came back from behind in that win. They're going to face a team that has Bufflin who could smack them in the mouth, and Ehlers and Scheifele and just some young, fast, big forwards. If Winnipeg's on their game, this is going to be a very difficult game. If Winnipeg's a little off their game, then I think the Flyers will win. But this feels like a trap game to me. Like the Flyers, this is no gimme.
Yeah, I mean the Flyers have this 4-game road trip in the West, and last year they had a 4-game road trip on the West, and that's sort of what was the moment that turned their playoff thing around. So we'll see what happens here. If they can, I mean, they go from here to Minnesota, I think, after this.
Yeah.
That's not going to be easy. And then they go to Columbus, and then they go to Pittsburgh. So this is really the rubber hitting the road part for the Flyers right here. All right, so I agree with you. They have played Winnipeg well. I mean, going back to when they were Atlanta, they played Winnipeg well. So it's kind of crazy.
But that's what's crazy about it. Like that to me, it always changes at some point. You never know when it's going to happen.
It does. And the Jets are pretty much out of it. But they're the only team that has a really weird outside shot, but they're not really in it either. But they do have a slight outside shot. They've been winning a little bit lately. San Jose at Minnesota. This could be the game of the night too.
This is the game of the night.
Yeah. I mean, as far as raw skill goes, yes. I think as far as playoff implications, I think Boston, Ottawa is.
I don't, but here's the thing. I look at this game. I'm not as high on the Wild as I was a month and a half ago.
Right, because they've been sleeping.
Terrible last night. I watched that game last night.
They've been sleepwalking the last couple weeks. That's why.
Yeah. I mean, here's a funny story about my little projecting thing. I'm at dinner last night with my wife, and I'm like, oh man, I got to get my predictions out for tonight at 6 o'clock. I got to put it. So I'm right. That's why my blog last night looked like it was typed with my thumb, because I was basically doing it with my thumb at a restaurant to try to get this thing together. And I'm doing it really fast. And I put San Jose, beating Dallas in regulation, when actually the computer said Dallas would beat San Jose in regulation. I get home and I'm like, oh man, and I'm like, I made that mistake, but I can't change it now because and why would I change? I'm like, San Jose is not going to lose to Dallas in regulation. Well, there you go, bang, boom, happens. So I end up losing that game, even though my computer victor right. But it's fun. So so I watched that game just out of spite because of that mess up, and I was completely, I was just totally, this is a big game.
Was dinner good at least?
It was delicious, yes. Bonefish, can't beat Bonefish Grill.
Bonefish is good. I like bonefish.
Yeah. What's that? The crazy shrimp? Bang bang shrimp, awesome. Minnesota needs to win a game. I mean, this is not a good fit for them, right?
It's not a good fit for them, and this is a game where I think they need to see where they measure up with the teams like San Jose. They do, and I think this is an important game for them as a result, because if they were to lose this game in bad fashion, they could end up limping into the playoffs in a week and a couple weeks, and that's not a good look.
Yeah. I mean, we've got a little under 3 weeks to go. I mean, I don't think Minnesota fans should be in panic mode yet. But if this continues another couple weeks, then I would be worried, because
what if they get shut out tonight, Mike? There should be some worry if they get shut out tonight.
Well, right, but Russ, I mean, again, it's like we're talking 3 weeks. It's like, I mean, right, everything. They're basically home and cooled out. They know they're going to be first or second, more than likely in the Central Division, unless they lose the last 11 games. So I mean, it's really all you're playing for is home ice advantage against the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks seem to be on the path to winning the Western Conference and having home ice advantage throughout. So I mean, right now I would just say for Minnesota, just get your house in order, get ready for the playoffs, because that's all you really have to look forward to right now.
Vancouver, Chicago. Speaking of the Blackhawks, so Minnesota lost tonight. Another Chicago win really separates that further. Which
Chicago right now is all they're concerned about is nobody get hurt, get Anisimov back for the playoffs, get Hossa back, and you're in perfect position as long as you don't have a debilitating injury.
Right.
Don't lose Taves, don't lose Kane. If that doesn't happen, they're the odds-on favorite in the West.
Agreed.
Yep.
And finally, San Jose, Colorado. St. Louis, Colorado. Sorry, St. Louis, Colorado. So Colorado's been playing better lately. St. Louis is really in a spot where they're kind of
2 points for St. Louis.
Yeah, they got this is the win they've got to get, because I think at the end of the day, St. Louis is going to take that third spot in that division. But it's how they get there or not. It is going to be interesting down the stretch that we talked about the whole thing with the teams in the NBA resting players. And I wrote in my blog today, I think the Leafs playoff chances may depend on that, teams resting players down the stretch, because those last 4 games or so against teams that should be resting.
Mike would want all those teams to play their best players. He would.
Well, I mean,
unless, of course, the only reason, and I brought that up to somebody else last night, and they said, well, that's not going to be the case, because they really think we're going to have a 3 or 4 dog race for first in the division, which is possible.
Right. It right now, if you look at it, it doesn't work out well for Toronto, because the last 2 games are Pittsburgh and Columbus. Those 2 teams are fighting it out for second and third in the Metro. They play Washington early in the week. Washington is not going to sit Ovechkin with 4 games to go left in the season. They may sit him in the last game of the season, but not 4 games out. They might mix in Grubauer more and then the other game is against Tampa. So I don't think that they're going to benefit from that, while I think some other teams might, but we'll see.
I'll bring this back to the Flyers for one reason, Eck. We've seen the Flyers, and I said this so many times this year, and now it's really going to come into play. They're winning all of these games in overtime and bleeding a point. If it comes down to a tie or something, like they get hot and it's the ROW, their ROW stinks.
I know. Yeah. Which I'm trying to figure out why the NHL has right now currently has Washington ahead of Columbus in the standings, because they both played 71 games. Columbus has 47 wins. Washington has 46. They both have 45 regulation wins. I mean, isn't the tiebreaker?
There's got to be something else in a column that we don't see, where
I thought it went regulation wins, then actual wins.
Less losses.
Less losses?
Yeah, less losses. That's the answer.
It's winning percentage, basically,
Yeah.
or point percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, tonight, by the end of the night, it's possible that, we could see the Columbus ahead of Washington. And then actually on Thursday, is it? The Caps play the
Here's what I would like to see. I would love to see a tie for the President's Trophy because I don't think we've ever seen it. And I would like to see two organizations try not to touch the President's Trophy. Like, to me, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think touching the President's Trophy is something you should do.
Okay.
Should do or shouldn't do?
Should do. You should do. I believe I believe the Stanley Cup is the only trophy that you're not allowed to touch. That's my thing.
I don't like touching the President's Trophy either. I don't.
I thought it was the conference championship trophies. I thought it was the Clarence Campbell and the.
No, listen. The Flyers had the Clarence Campbell in their locker room.
Yeah, I know. But I remember,
and it didn't hurt him. And it didn't hurt him.
Not to touch the Clarence
I thought the superstition was about those and not the President's Trophy.
No, yeah. I think this could be my own superstition.
It is, because they don't really present the President's Trophy, do they?
Yeah, and it was the Prince of Wales that the Flyers had in the locker room, right? That's what it was.
Yeah, but the Flyers were also the first I remember they were the first to not touch the Prince of Wales Trophy. I remember that moment when Lindros skated away from it. That was a big controversy back in the day.
The Sabres didn't in '99. I remember that.
I don't believe you should touch the President's Trophy. I actually wish the league would do away with it because I think it's an albatross for the teams that get it.
Yeah, I mean,
most of the time.
I mean, I think having home ice advantage is obviously wonderful.
Yes.
Someone agrees with Mike, by the way. Someone just emailed me. Woo! I agree with Mike. So anyway, we'll talk more about that later because this person's obviously been drinking.
All intelligent Leaf fans do.
Bruce, you've obviously
sign off by saying one thing. I want to send a message to Stephen A. Smith. He said something ridiculous today, and Eck, you'll hate this, but he said that the Yankees still own New York for baseball, and they really don't. For like the last 3 years, they haven't. The Mets get better attendance, and Yankee fans hate it, and tough luck.
No, here's an email from Bruce. Ready? I wanted to bring this up. I agree with Mike. As structured now, the Leafs will not win the Cup this year or 3-4 years from now. They need to pick up picks. They need picks to pick up defense and depth. I'm a Senators fan. Great, he says. ... We will make the playoffs. ... But we will exit in the first or second round. Big deal. I'd rather miss playoffs knowing we are trying.
So he's not even a Leaf fan agreeing with him.
No, he's intelligent. I'd rather miss the playoffs knowing we are trying to bridge the gap between also ran bubble teams to real Cup contenders. See, this is where I disagree, Bruce.
But didn't he say he's a Sens fan?
Yeah, but what he's saying is he's upset about the Sens fans making the playoffs because they're not getting any better. See, I think this is only one team gets to win their final game of the season. Okay, so the reality is, if you don't make the playoffs, you get to, but only one team in the playoffs gets to win their last game of the season.
But it's always easier for a fan of another fan base to say, "Oh yeah, I like what they're doing," because it doesn't affect you.
No, I think it does because he's going through the same kind of thing. I get it.
No, you can't. The thing is, and then the last point, you cannot mess with the track record of teams that have done this. Chicago, Pittsburgh, Los Angeles with getting Doughty second pick overall. They went down to the bottom. Yeah. They got premium picks. They built their franchises around them, and they've won Stanley Cups. The only team that screwed it up was the Edmonton Oilers because they didn't know what the hell they were doing. Other than that, most of the
what that has led to, there are so many Flyers fans, and if you ask them what they hate about the Penguins more than anything else, it's the fact that they fielded an AHL team for half of a decade and got good. There's definitely something that really pisses off other organizations because it seems like the lamest way to win, but whatever, it doesn't matter at the end of the day.
In retrospect now, does anybody even talk about it? No,
but they were horrible. People forget how bad they were.
I know, but nobody talks about it now. That's the funny thing.
Oh no, you don't exactly. But you didn't just Malkin and Crosby and Fleury and Stahl. These guys these were all picks that just completely were because they were awful. All right, draft lottery simulator time. Okay, almost forgot. Sorry. Here we go.
All right, you didn't though.
That's right. Should have had this ready. Sorry, guys.
Let's hope the Leafs get one of these top picks.
They can't. They're not out of the playoffs.
Oh, why not, Mike?
That's right. They're not there. Yeah, well, they're not.
Why aren't they there, Mike?
They're disappointed right now. Okay, here we go. Ready? Let me put it up here. Why don't I do that? It's going to be good. You guys are going to have fun. Fun playoff. Here we go. I promise. All right, ready? The winner is the Arizona Coyotes. Finally winning. The Coyotes have finally won, proving that the maybe the atmospheric pressure in Colorado that doesn't allow ping pong balls to fall. All right, here we go. Ready? Next up, the Buffalo Sabres. They're the king of the bridesmaids, the Sabres. They are always the bridesmaids. And finally, the Detroit Red Wings. Once again, the Colorado
They
Avalanche.
haven't had a pick that high in a long time.
Yeah, I know. Finally, once again, the Colorado Avalanche. There they are.
And Vegas would pick fifth.
All right, here's my thought. I generally this doesn't go with my normal talking point, but if Arizona were to get the first pick, I think there would be crazy discussion about them trading it or doing something else, because this is just my feel for the organization. This is not what I would do, but I just have a feeling if it happened, they would entertain all kinds of stuff.
He's been the kind of GM that would make you think about that, right? Like he's definitely tries to be one of the more creative guys.
Yes.
And but they,
even if it's just trading first for second for something, it wouldn't shock me if there were all of a sudden, if this were to happen the day after, we start hearing a lot of discussion.
But with everything going on, the excitement of having the first overall pick might be enough to keep going. I mean, they might get owned. That's an ownership decision, I think, to a degree as well. They might sit back and say, you know what, we need badly.
But ownership's going to say, but you're right. But ownership is going to say, see what we can get out there.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I would think about trading, Ekman Larson and getting another pick somewhere down the line. That's what I thought they would have done before.
Not in this draft, because this draft
not
is
in this draft, right? Is next draft better again?
I don't know yet. I haven't even looked at it. Don't even. I will not commit to it.
You don't have to commit to anything.
Yes, it's better.
When is the next? Is there another superstar out there somewhere?
There's always other superstars out there. I don't even look right now. I am very myopic.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. I mean,
at this draft only. I don't want to know about a 15-year-old that looks like he's the next McDavid. I don't want to know about any of it right now.
Yeah. All right, guys. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. Thank you so much for supporting us on patreon.com/hockey. I have a surprise for the Patreon people by the end of the week. So I've got something coming up. Be excited. It's something that is being designed right now that you're all going to get sent to you. We have something cool that we're working on. So if you go to patreon.com/hockey, we really appreciate your support. We've had all kinds of issues with Patreon and going through different things. But
is this some sort of black magic?
This is going to be fun. Yes, you're going to like this.
Yes, it is. Okay.
It is. It's actually very cool. So go to patreon.com/hockey and support us if you can. And if you can't, just tell your friends. Go around and just tell your friends about us. Subscribe on YouTube. And as always, enjoy the games tonight. We'll talk to you soon. Remember, without the buzz, just hockey. See you then.
See ya.